and indeed tougher north of the border. French is the primary language in Quebec, and there's a renewed push to keep it that way. Tonight, we listen to the language barrier in Quebec. Doesn't it all look so good? A little shop in Montreal.
Ici au Péndoré, on vend beaucoup de viennoiseries, des pâtisseries, des sandwiches, des cafés.
Pardon?
We sell croissants, pastries, cakes, and sandwiches and coffees.
Pastry shop worker June Downey grew up in Quebec. Her first language is English, but
in Quebec we need to know the French to advance in schooling and jobs and life.
Increasingly so.
40 years ago in Quebec, a generation ago, even here in Montreal, everything was in English. All the signage would have been in English. Most of the people you would have spoken to on a commercial basis would have done so in English. Things have come a long way since then.
Since the 1970s and the passage of the French Language Charter, also known as Bill 101, if you live in Quebec and you have a big business, your signs have to be in French. If you work in a big company, the language of your workplace is French. Now, 40 years later, in 2013, there's a new move to strengthen that charter, making even stricter French language laws. Why?
Les francophones au Québec ne veulent pas se sentir comme des étrangers dans leur propre pays.
People like Dennis Mathieu.
The United States and all the other provinces in Canada, they all speak English. We know that. That's why we're happy to speak both languages. But we don't want to get away our language. We want to keep it.
Mathieu voted for Pauline Marois in 2012. Marois, the first woman elected Première of Quebec, is also the torchbearer for the PQ, the Parti Québécois, whose long-term objective is to win sovereignty for Quebec and separate from Canada. Short-term, the PQ is trying to pass something called Bill 14, requiring even mom-and-pop stores to communicate through signs and speech, first in French. And Bill 14 would require students at high schools where English and French are both spoken to pass a French proficiency test. Some educators are disgusted with the bill, and Première Marois, a former education minister.
This is, to me, beyond belief, stupid. She should know what we are doing already in the English education system to ensure that our students are able to function in Quebec society. We don't need an additional lashing, which is, I think, what this is. And I think that the way that most people would interpret that is, if you want to tell us you don't want us, we heard you.
And Quebec's so-called language police, the French Language Office, has already mailed warnings to businesses. Fail to display names translated into French, and you could lose government contracts and be fined up to $25,000. Why aren't English speakers, Anglophones, fighting harder? Well, maybe because there aren't that many left to speak up.
People who stayed tended to embrace the French fact in the sense of thinking about becoming bilingual.
Of the nearly 8 million people who live in Quebec, 78% say their first language is French. But English-speaking tourists from places like Vermont, New York, and New Hampshire feel more enchanted than outcasts.
What we found in Montreal is that the French fact actually appeals to a lot of people, that you can actually go to Europe without going to Europe.
As for Quebec separating anytime soon, even under Marois, she is a pragmatic politician.
And she knows that Quebecers aren't really looking for sovereignty these days.
Back at the pastry shop, June agrees. French will forever be the first language of Quebec, but Quebec should never break away from Canada.
I think it's silly. It doesn't make sense. You can't separate. We're in between. We can't leave.
In the middle, you can't leave. Well, Quebec has certainly changed a lot, but English speakers and Americans are critical to the economy of the province. We'll be following the progress of that Bill 14. Meantime, if you're crossing north of the border, bring your passport, a GPS if you have one, and learning some French, even a little, un petit peu, wouldn't hurt.
I'm impressed, Jeff. Good work.